In this video, we'll be replacing the motor assembly for this RYOBI Polesaw. The tools we'll be needing is a set of snap ring pliers. These are homemade. We'll be using 3/16 Allen and a 5/32 Allen and a Phillips number 2, as well as our PCL 946 soldering iron. For this portion, we'll be removing the bar and chain from the pole saw assembly. We'll be using the 3/16 Allen head to remove this bolt here. As well as flipping it over and using the 5/32 here to loosen up the tension on the chain. Do that a few turns, should be good. Flip it back over. Finish pulling out this bolt. Let it off to the side, don't lose it. Pull off this cover, set it off to the side as well. And from here, you'll pick up the bar, shift it backwards a little bit, and you can squeeze the chain out from behind there. Set this off to the side. We'll need that again once we need to reassemble it. Now at this point, we're going to go ahead and get the snap ring out of the way. You'll need to remove this to get the rest of the gear assembly out. Be careful pulling the snap ring loose. Sometimes good to cover the work area while you're getting that spring to come loose. It will fly off. Once you get that loose, set it off to the side. Be sure not to lose that. Then you pull off this next sprocket, set it off to the side as well, and then this washer. Next, you'll be removing the 9 screws that hold the casing together. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 2 are hiding underneath the label right here. 1 and 2. I'm going to speed up this process by using my drill to take the screws out. Do not ever use the drill to put these screws back in. You will strip it every time. Little bitty one down here at the bottom. Don't forget where that one goes. And then 2 underneath the label. Okay. Then from there, loosen this cap up a little bit. Make sure this is empty before you start, otherwise you're going to make a huge mess. Just work the case loose a little bit. And then from there, you're going to want to flip it over and remove this case off to the side. And from here, now that you remove the snap ring from this side, you can push this up just a little bit. That'll push the motor just enough room to squeeze it out of here. Alright, now we're on to the next part. Now for this next part, the contacts appear to be soldered to the motor. In this particular situation, not sure why, but we have to unsolder them to get the motor loose. We'll be using our PCL 946 RYOBI soldering iron. I usually set jobs like this to about 550, sometimes 600. That's about all you need for these small wires. If you go larger gauge, you definitely want to turn it up. We'll wait for that to heat up. Alright, now that our soldering iron is heated up, we are ready to start working. On your model, you're going to just gently heat up the solder and pull with a set of pliers. Do not use your bare hands. This will burn you. Just let the solder heat up a little bit. Alright, that one was being a little bit stubborn, but we got it loose. We're going to flip it over and go to the brown wire, which is on the 3/4 side with the angle on it. We need to pull the casing back so we get to this part that's been soldered. Don't want to melt that. See if we can get a good contact in that direction. Pretend my soldering iron again. Alright. Let me get back down to this. Let's see if this side cooperates any better. There we go. Got it popped loose. Finally. Now that we're done with that part, we can get the new motor and resolder it on to the same locations. Alright. This is me from the future. Come to correct a mistake I didn't pay attention to. Now this is the new motor on the left and the older motor on the right. If you notice on the top here, there's a little notch and there's a little bit of red glow, little paint that indicates the red, positive terminal. On this one, it's much clearer, bright red, easy to tell. That's where you want to put your positive terminal, right? Cool. Now when you flip them over, new motor, old motor, flip them over, and the brackets are not in the same orientation. So you definitely need to pay attention to the positive terminal, and that you don't rewire it like I did upside down. Now back to the other part of the video. I can solder, just not that great. Nice and stubborn to do this. A little better than that. Just a little bit more solder in here. Scoop it in with the pliers. There we go. Just to make sure we've got a nice good connection, we'll add a little bit more solder in here. Nice good bond. Flip this over. We'll add a little bit of solder to the bottom here. Lost audio, so I'll be doing a little bit of voiceover. I'm adding a little bit of solder to this joint because I didn't like the way it looked. It needs to be a strong joint. And I felt like I needed to add a little bit more solder to this joint as well. Gotta make sure it's got good contact. At this point, we can put the motor back into the housing. You're going to need to lift up this part here, push it up from the bottom, get a little bit more clearance so you can shove the motor gear up underneath of there and line up the two tabs with the casing so it slides right down into position. Don't forget the little rubber grommet that's underneath in the middle, and the angled part is in position towards the back. Make sure the rubber grommet's here as well, and the one underneath. Now you're going to take the pole assembly with the sticker side up where the oil cap is along the top. Position the wires in these grooves here so it doesn't get pinched in the housing. And you're going to need to take a tool and push these wires to the side so they don't get pinched in between the screws. Once the screws holes are clear, you can get the rest of the housing and move on to the next part. Take the cover, flip it over, make sure everything's lined up really well. If there's anything that's not fitting quite right together, open it back up and check the wiring area that you're not pinching in this area. Make sure the gear's all the way through and seated properly. If the casing looks like this, it's all back together. Now, we can move on. And from this point, we are ready to screw these. And from this point, we are ready to screw these pieces back together. I always start with the top left-hand corner and go clockwise. I'm going to start with these two screws here. Like I said before, do not use a drill or impact to power this together. You will strip out these screws every time. Now another thing I do, every screw I put in, I will turn it counterclockwise and wait till it clicks. You'll feel it click in the screwdriver and then start screwing it clockwise. That'll ensure that you don't strip out those holes and the case falls apart prematurely. Start the screw, turn it backwards till you feel the click. Right, there it is. Screw it together. Once it seats together, you'll feel it gets nice and tight, and then go ahead and do it another quarter of a turn, at least. Sometimes a little more depending on the screws you're working with. And again, backwards till you feel it click, and run it in. Backwards till you click. Got it. Run it clockwise to run it in. Do not take the shortcut here and use a drill or an impact. Click. Oh, lost it. Click. If you take a shortcut here and use an impact or a drill, you can set it on a low torque setting It'll drill out this plastic around these screws, and you'd be halfway using the pole saw, and the whole thing fall apart on you. Last one for this section. Click. Don't forget the two here. Right, then we got this little one down here at the bottom. Now it's important not to push down while you're trying to feel for that little click, otherwise you're just going to ground the threads out backwards. So just kind of a gentle twist until you feel it click. Alright, that's nice and snug. Now to return the washer, be sure to watch where the D spot is. Push it all the way down in there. You take the gear, teeth side down, and then take your snap ring and reassemble that onto there. Alright, those are locked in. Good to go. Now, we'll take the bar, slide it behind the gear, make sure the teeth are in the right position. Nice little diagram on here that shows you that. Then you're going to want to look for the little nub down here at the bottom. Of course, this chain does need replaced, but this is just for demonstration purposes. Okay, got everything lined up there. And screw. Bolt. Start that. Shred it down a little bit. Go ahead and bring it to about touching where the head makes contact with the case. Alright. And make sure it's in position. And flip it over. And take your 5/30 seconds. Now it's important for you to push up this direction on the bar when you're putting tension on it and tightening it. Make sure that so it doesn't come loose while you're using it. Alright, not too tight, a little bit of slack. Alright, pushing down on it, tension good. Now I'll usually flip it down and set it on the table, or put a block under it so it's supported, so the bar is being pushed upward while you're tightening down. This one. And this one's supposed to be pretty good and snug. Alright, that should be about right. Might be a little too tight. Back it over here. A little less. Seems good. Resting the bar on there, tighten it up good and snug. Alright, now we should be ready for a test. And there we have it. Like, subscribe, and stay tuned for the next teardown video. Thank you.